Hey there. One more review before the end of this long weekend. This is Equis Ambar. It says, as the moon rises, so do the possibilities. So this is a dark, well, actually, on the Dos Equis website, it is categorized as a Vienna Lager. So it's a darker lager, European amber lager. And I don't recall if I've actually tried a beer in this category before. Ordenbiersch Vienna. I don't think that I have, at least none that I can remember. And so I read through the BJCP style guideline before I opened this up, and it's very interesting, and I'm glad that I looked it up. I think this is probably a category that I would appreciate. I like amber ales a lot, Vienna, and I really like Marzen, which is like the next door neighbor of a Vienna lager. So we'll check this out. We'll see how this goes. So flavor, or excuse me, aroma. It's very sweet. Definitely malty. A lot of green going on. Almost a grape kind of aroma. Almost, but not quite. So color-wise, it's a beautiful amber color, golden amber color. It's pretty crystal clear. I don't think that there's any... yeah, crystal clear. No cloudiness at all. It looks like it's nicely carbonated. In my tiny little beer tasting glass, I'm not certain if it was going to pour with head. I think it did a little bit, but it didn't stick around in this glass. It's hard to get head in this glass. It says that it should have a large off-white persistent head. So, yeah, well, I don't know. These glasses aren't good for that. Flavor. This is good. It has like a crisp kind of malt flavor to it. I can taste the lagerishness in it, but it's hidden by a layer of complexity, I think, or obscured by a layer of complexity that actually makes it a very drinkable beer. And it has a pretty dry finish. Maybe it does have a bitter aftertaste. It starts out clean and crisp. Then it kind of has this sweetness to it. It kind of gets a little watery, like the flavor lightens a lot, and then it has just like a nice crisp finish to it. It's definitely a lager, but with an interesting complexity to it. This is actually a pretty good beer, and I'm pretty sure that I have ordered Dos Equis and consumed Dos Equis plenty of times, and I really never paid it that much attention. And normally, if I'm drinking, like a Mexican style beer, when I'm eating Mexican food, then I'll have a Pacifico or a Negro Modelo. I really like Negro Modelo. This is actually pretty good. And I had always just assumed that it was, I don't think I ever specifically, and maybe I always bought the one that's green, so Dos Equis also comes in a green bottle, so maybe it's not the amber. I had always assumed it was just a lager, just a regular standard kind of a beer. And I drank it, and it was more about like having a cold, fresh beer than it was about having something that tasted really great. And so now that I really give it some thought, this is actually a pretty drinkable beer, and I think that I appreciate Dos Equis. Now, normally when I drink a lager style beer, like an American lager, I find that it tastes like very super sweet, and it's like canned corn in that respect. And this doesn't have that quality entirely. Now, I can tell that it's a cousin of a lager, but it has like a maturity to it, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. And so it's soft, but it offers an interesting flavor profile, both in the beginning and at the end. And it's, for a lager, that's kind of what we expect. We expect a gentle, soft flavor. So they've done that very well here. So I think it's probably a good marriage between a lager and an amber ale. Amber ales are, maltier, don't have as much of a hop profile, and lagers are very sweet, and don't have much of a hop profile. So this is kind of like the midway point between that. I feel like this is a good beer for somebody who definitely likes lagers and wants to try something a little bit different. It's good, and it's very drinkable, and it makes me want tacos. So I thought it was interesting, the history for this particular style. This is the original amber lager developed by Anton Dreher shortly after the isolation of lager yeast. And there's ale yeast and there's lager yeast. Lager yeast can be fermented at a lower temperature and usually is done for a longer period of time. I don't remember the temperatures off the top of my head, but generally speaking, an ale yeast is like 65 to 70, 72 degrees, and a lager can be done at cooler temperatures. Maybe not quite as low as the 50s, but definitely in the 60s. And so if you live in a cooler area, or, you're brewing your beers, fermenting your beers in the winter and maybe keeping it in the garage, and you're reaching cooler temperatures, you can actually lager it that way and get a whole different flavor profile by using a lager yeast. So lager yeast is important in that category, and it's important also to know that the difference between a lager and an ale actually is ingredients. And American lagers have a lot of adjuncts, and that where we're getting that corn kind of flavor from, and they use corn, they use rice, and so that comes from a lot of flavor, but it also has to do with the yeast, and it's made differently, and so cooler temperatures, longer fermentation, but nonetheless, nearly distinct in its area of origin. The style continues in Mexico, where it was brought by Santiago Graf and other Australian immigrant brewers in the late 1800s. Regrettably, most modern examples use adjuncts, which lessen the rich malt complexity characteristic of the best examples of this style. The style owes much of its character to the method of malting using Vienna malt. Lighter malt character overall than an Oktoberfest, yet still decidedly balanced toward malt. So that's an interesting piece of history that really talks to the fact that a lot of modern lagers are kind of not watered down necessarily, but diluted, and so we're not getting the full flavor out of that. And so lager has, I don't know if I can say this publicly, but I'm going to do it anyway. Lager has kind of it has cheapened the beer experience as far as the lager style is concerned, because we're not really getting all the flavors from those ingredients, and then that really gets us back to the German purity laws, where there were laws enacted saying that a beer can only have water, yeast, and grains. And so those grains could be either hops or malt, and that's it. So no flavor addings, no adjuncts, to try to cut the grain that you're using, because corn, would be cheaper or whatever. None of that was allowed. So you don't really see a lot of, flavored beers coming out of the German region as a result. And I think, that has a cost benefit. So there are a lot of really great beers that are made with some interesting experiments, but also a cheapening, if you will, of the beer experience by cutting it with things that aren't necessarily enhancing the beer's flavor, and definitely cutting costs as far as ingredients go. And so a very interesting conversation in that respect. But so it also says, it goes on to say in the comments section of this guideline written in 2008, is that American versions can be a bit stronger, drier, and more bitter, while European versions tend to be sweeter. Many Mexican amber and dark lagers used to be more authentic, but unfortunately are now more like sweet, adjunct-laden American dark lagers. So, you know, that being said, it's hard to know exactly, I didn't read the ingredients list for Dos Equis to find out, whether or not they're using adjuncts, which I can do relatively easily. I guess I'm on the internet now. But, this beer is enjoyable and drinkable. And I feel like it's a nod in the traditional lager sense. But done in a way that's, respectful of this particular style. And I like that it was rated as a Vienna Lager as opposed to an American Lager. I think that there's definitely a difference in flavors. I don't know. Let's see here. So find Dos Equis near you. Yeah, it doesn't really talk much about, and I can find it near me, but I have it. It's right here. I don't need to find it. But they're all about getting you to drink it, but they don't necessarily want to give you information about what is in it. Yeah, marketing copy. I mean, it doesn't really give you good information. So, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes branded websites like that just don't give you the information that's relevant. I want to know, what exactly are you using as ingredients? Or do you have adjuncts added, that would change the flavor of your beer? But they're not going to tell us. However, it's important to know that Dos Equis is endorsed by the most interesting man in the world. And so, if that colors your opinion, there it is. But he drinks the green Dos Equis, the Lager Especial. Not necessarily the Ambar. So, does that make me the most interesting woman in the world? Maybe. Alright, enough rambling on this video. My beer review friends are going to be doing a review of this beer this week, and unfortunately I'm not able to join them. I thought I was going to be able to do it because I was going to be able to leave work early, but it's not going to happen. I have to be in 2 places at once, as a matter of fact. So I'm interested in seeing what they have to say, and I will share this video with them. And I'm there in spirit. So enjoy your Dos Equis Ambar beer discussion. I forget what you guys call them. Examination. Enjoy your examination. I can't wait to see it. And thank you so much for your invite. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.